What is going on, guys? I am back today to continue my journey through the Toy Story film series. And I've had a lot of fun rewatching these movies because they meant a lot to me when I was growing up. The first two films, especially when I was a kid, I just remember watching these over and over again. The first film came out when I was like 5 years old. These that have always meant a lot to me in my childhood. And so it's been fun to revisit them because it's been a few years since I've watched some of these movies, and I'm very excited to discuss the third installment today. I remember seeing this in the theater and just being very excited because when this came out, I actually worked at a movie theater, and so I was really hyped up and energized to be able to go see this one. I was very excited to finally get to experience a Toy Story film in the theater, being a little bit older, and I'm looking forward to talking about it today. Toy Story 3 is directed by Lee Unkrich. Woody, Buzz, and the rest of Andy's toys haven't been played with in years. With Andy about to go to college, the gang finds themselves accidentally left at a nefarious daycare center. The toys must band together to escape and return home to Andy. So I was very excited to revisit this movie, and it still holds up. It's absolutely fantastic. Equally as gut-wrenching and heartfelt as it was the very first time I ever saw it. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this came out in 2010. I want to say summer of 2010, so I would have been 19 going on 20 at this period in time, working at a movie theater. And I remember when this got announced, this was an almost 11-year gap between Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 came out in 1999, so it had been a really long time. And whenever a company handles a big property like this, you hope that it's not just a cash grab, because unfortunately Disney, being who they are now, they've shown that they're willing to do cash grabs like crazy lately, especially with their churning out of these live-action remakes of classic films. And with a beloved property like Toy Story, I wondered what they were going to do with this, because Toy Story 2, although it ends on a happier note that's relatively open-ended, you think, what are they going to do with this? So they take it in the darkest direction imaginable, as the plot description states. The beginning of the film shows us that Andy hasn't played with the toys in a very long time. They're actually in the toy box at the beginning of the movie. We find out that Andy very soon is going to college, and Andy's mom comes in and says, hey, you need to figure out what you want to do with the toys, otherwise things are going to go in the trash. And so the toys are starting to get scared that they're going to be trashed, that they're going to be thrown away. And Andy ends up coming in, putting Woody in the box that he's going to take to college, and he puts the rest of the toys in a bag that he's going to put upstairs in the attic. Well, unfortunately, it gets mistaken as trash. Andy's mom grabs it, takes it outside, and Woody manages to get out, get them out of the trash bag, and they all go into a box that Andy's mom has loaded in her car to go to a daycare center. And Woody tells them, you don't want to go to daycare, you don't want anything to do with this, it's going to be a nightmare. And when they get there, they meet Lotso, Bear, and all of these other characters, including Ken. And they say that this daycare is a wonderful place that you get to play with children, take them through, walk them through on this tour of the facility, and then they say, this is the room that you're going to be stationed in. And they put them in there. The kids all run in, and they find out they're very young toddlers who just draw on them, throw them all over the place, and they find out that Lotso essentially is the dictator of this daycare center, and he picks who goes into that room with the toddlers and who gets the better treatment in the room with the kids that are a little bit older. And so the entire film is the toys trying to break out of this daycare center when Woody lets them know that Andy wasn't trying to throw them away, he was trying to put them in the attic. So it's a very interesting premise because the film covers some very heavy topics, especially when it comes to this idea of being forgotten. I mean, these toys for children are such a sense of joy and happiness. And to think about these toys having to contemplate their worth because their owner is getting older and doesn't want to play with toys anymore, it's really deep and thought-provoking in a way that not a lot of children's films are. And you're watching the film, a lot of it's through Woody's eyes, as most of these films are. And he does have a point where he sneaks away to Bonnie's house, who becomes a pivotal character through the rest of the series. And what's interesting is seeing him have to come to terms with the fact that, you know, he got chosen to go to college, but what's that going to mean for him anymore? It's not going to be the same because it's not like Andy's going to play with him all the time. And you can see the relationship between the toys and the friendship and the bond that they've formed over time. and how impactful that is. I really like Lotso as the villain in this. I think his arc and his story is really fascinating and why he is the way that he is. I love Ken's character. He's absolutely hilarious. I can't believe they got Michael Keaton to do the voice acting for his character. I think he's a great addition. Ken and Barbie's subplot is really fun to watch. And despite the fact that this movie does hit darker territory, it still has those lighthearted and fun moments. I still remember the first time I watched this in the third act sequences. I was just a ball of tears throughout the entire last like 15 minutes of this movie, because I feel like Toy Story 3 is the first time that one of these movies was made for people that were my age at that time. Disney was not looking at this as like it's a fresh new start for kids who have never seen Toy Story before. It's like, okay, the kids who are watching this movie were 4, 5, 6, 7 when it first came out. Now they're in their 20s, and you can really see that there are elements in this movie meant for kids, but for the most part, it is definitely targeted at people more in my age bracket at that time period. And I think it shows throughout the structuring of the film and the way that the emotional beats are presented. You can really feel that it's meant and targeted towards an older audience. And that's what I love a lot about it. I feel like in revisiting it this time, this is right up there with 2 for me as my favorite in the franchise. I think that it packs equal, if not more, of an emotional punch. And I think what's so interesting is when you build a series like this, you obviously know the characters and understand the characters. But I think even if you jumped into this third movie not being familiarized with the characters from the first 2 films, with how great the filmmakers are at showing the chemistry of the toys so early on in the film, it wouldn't be hard for you to be invested and to get that same level of emotional punch even if you hadn't seen the first 2 films. And a lot of time with sequels, it's difficult to get that emotional punch if you've never seen the earlier installments. And I think it would still work. I don't know if it would work for everyone, but for me personally, watching it from an outsider perspective, I think that it would still pack a really intense emotional punch. It's wild to see how drastically different the animation was from Toy Story 2 to 3 with that 11-year gap. Just how much more polished and clean everything looked. It's just really impressive that Pixar still continued to grow over time and adjust, but still provide that same feeling of the original 2 films. Yeah, I just loved the experience of watching this time. I have no qualms with any of the first 3 movies. I think they are all so well put together, so well structured. They're fantastically made, and I can't wait to revisit them again already. They're just that wonderful. So have you seen Toy Story 3? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I think this movie is phenomenal. I think it's a great installment in the franchise. This would have ended the series really well. They did make a 4th movie, and I'm excited to talk about it, but the 3rd one caps off everything in a really beautiful and emotional way that I think will impact anyone who watches it. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.